So I know this has probably been a lot, but just one more trap. There are many others, of course, but one more trap. I said that the subtle trap is our own psychology. But there's a specific version of this that ties into what I've just talked about. The ends can justify the means and fighting the fallen beings. We come here, we descend to the 48th level. We forget that we're avatars. We forget the reason we had for coming before we decided to come here. We forget all of this, but we still have an intuitive sense that we're here to do something positive, do something good. And what do the fallen beings in the identity realm try to do? They try to destroy that sense. They try to put us in situations, and again, my Lives book, it gives examples of this, put us into situations where we feel we failed. We made not only a mistake, we made an epic mistake. A completely epic mistake that led to the downfall of civilizations, millions of people being killed, all these kind of things. So we feel like we've done something so bad, we could never really overcome it. We have compromised ourselves. In other words, we think that in order to do something positive on earth, we can't allow ourselves to go into something negative. We can't allow ourselves to do what the fallen beings did. We can't allow ourselves to make these major mistakes. And so when we do, because we're avatars, we come down on ourselves very hard. If the fallen beings make the same mistake, they just brush it off because they have that insensitivity. But we have the sensitivity and we have the willingness to look at ourselves. So we become very, very distraught about this, very disturbed about it. And so this is one thing. They attempt to make us feel that we failed, but they also attempt to make us feel that, but it's hopeless. Our mission to change this planet, it's just hopeless because the fallen beings will just kill us. And the people on earth, they don't want to listen to us. They just ignore us. Or they even reject us and want us to go away so we don't disturb them. They just want to live the way they've always lived. They don't want to be told there's a better way. They just want us to go away. So we have this combination of we're here to do something, and we didn't come to Earth to have fun here, okay? It wasn't like we looked down on Earth and we saw this big roller coaster in an amusement park and said, oh, I want to go down and try that. No. We are here to do something positive. But now we are being attacked by the fallen beings. They make us think we made this huge mistake, and they make us think it's hopeless to do anything. So we are in this conflict, We start doubting that we can do anything positive on Earth. We even start doubting that we are capable. I mean, there's an impersonal aspect. It's impossible to change the Earth because it's already so bad. But there's a very personal aspect. I am not capable. And I can see that in myself. I struggled with that for a long time, I am not capable of changing anything on Earth because I'm not good enough. There's something wrong with me. There's something I don't have. I don't have certain qualities. And so what happens there, this becomes the trap because, as I said, we are not really not here to have fun. We're here to do something. And if we start doubting that we can do something positive, it's unbearable for us as avatars. I mean, it's a whole reason for coming here. It's unbearable to even think this. And that means in order to deal with this, in order to live with it, because we're still in these damn physical bodies and we can't just walk away from them, we have to create these subconscious selves to suppress all of this and find a way so we can still live here on the planet. And as part of this, we go into this trap of somehow wanting to compensate for this sense of loss that we felt. So we come here, we are hammered down by the fallen beings, and now we go into, even though we're not consciously aware of what happened, we still have this drive to compensate, to do something good, to be redeemed. I can see how, up until I got these teachings on the avatars, I had this self in me that dreamt of being the prince on the white horse, who would ride into town and set everything right. And I would finally be recognized, not as the only one, I never really had that ambition, but I was a good person, I had done something good, I had done something important on Earth. And so what I'm saying is, this becomes the trap, because your whole attention is eaten up by this, trying to compensate, trying to find a way to compensate. And I can see when I look back, I told my childhood dream about stopping war. It was coming from this self. Then I found my first spiritual movement. Oh, now we have to meditate, and by meditating we can remove these problems. So again, my whole involvement in my first spiritual movement was driven by this. Then my second then, as I've said, I left my first spiritual movement. I was in a vacuum for a couple of years, and I felt totally depressed. Like, what's the purpose of being here? Because now I didn't have any way to feel that I was doing something important. Then I find my second spiritual movement, which it was based on the Ascended Master teachings, but it did have a certain culture that we are the most advanced spiritual student on the planet, and we are saving the world for Saint Germain. And again, myself was activated. Oh, here's what I've been looking for. This is the real thing. Now I'm doing something positive. And that drove me for 15 years or more, while I was still driven by this, Moved from Denmark to the United States, went through all kinds of outer troubles to be there, give the decrees, and do all of these things. But it was all this compensatory self that was driving me. Which means what? It means that I was constantly agitated. I was constantly in stress mode. I was not at peace at all. I always felt I was behind. I was never doing enough, because I could be doing more decrees. I mean, if I did 3 hours of decrees a day, I could be doing 3.5 or 4, or, go on and on and on. And as a matter of fact, I had a work one time where I was doing some assembly work that was mechanical work. And I was in my own room, and I could play on tapes. I could play these decrees. So I would be doing this for 8-10 hours a day while I was working, And so it wasn't enough, because it's never really enough, because you haven't really compensated until, the Earth becomes a natural planet, basically. Which probably isn't going to happen in my lifetime. So what I'm trying to say is, this is another trap, where the fallen beings have made us doubt that we can do what we came for. And because this is unlivable for us, we are constantly trying to compensate, one way or another. And what I said in my previous talks is, we can go beyond this. We can realize this comes from subconscious selves. We can just let them die. See, the selves are going to project at us. No, you have to keep going. You have to keep doing this, because nobody else is doing it. You have to, and there has to be a result. You just got to keep doing this. And you can come to a point where you realize, but this is just a self saying this. It's completely unreal. It's based on an illusion. I don't want to live this way, in this tension anymore, in this stress. And it's not about doing something outer. It's just a matter of seeing the self and deciding, I'm letting you die. I'm not trying to solve a problem. I'm just letting the self die. And when you do that, then a deeper sense of peace. But you also have a whole different approach to being on Earth, because now you're not seeking to compensate. You're here for two reasons, basically. You're here to, first of all, experience yourself in this kind of an environment. How do you react to this environment? And take care of what I'm saying here. Because what have I just said? We are constantly reacting ever since we received the birth trauma. Yes, but there's a difference between reacting through all of these subconscious selves and then reacting as the being you are. Being you are being your higher self, your I am presence. And you can come to a point where you are just observing the Earth. You're not having an opinion about what should or shouldn't happen. You're just observing, and then you are feeling how your I am presence is reacting to this. And it's a fundamentally different way to look at life. I'm not saying I can do it all the time. Once in a while I still get pulled into reacting. But I can certainly do it much more than I could before I came to see the self. And really, when we get to that point, the highest service we can give on Earth is really to be an open door for the light from our I am presence and from the Ascended Masters. And of course, when we're compensating, the conscious you is pulled into these subconscious selves. And we are looking at life through that. And we're not feeling connected to the I am presence, because the I am presence is not compensating. So when we are compensating, we're not connected to the I am presence. So when we can let these selves die and feel that greater connection to the I am presence, we become much more of an open door and much more light can stream through